Okay.
We are going.
So we're good? We're to go? Okay. Welcome everyone to the second monthly family tree gathering activity that we're doing. Today we're going to be interviewing Grandma Elaine Smedley Holbrook and just about her life and asking questions. Be it noted, last time we were a little hesitant with the question asking. I feel like we didn't want to interrupt Grandpa, but let's try and be a little bit more liberal about that. Just feel free if you don't understand something she says, or maybe an example being last time when Grandpa referenced lighting the tire on fire. A lot of us had no idea what he was talking about, but you know, you learn that you pour kerosene on a tire and it lights pretty well. But just random questions like that, anything that comes to mind. And yeah, do you think you're ready?
Okay.
All right.
Dean and I were born during the Depression, you should know. And so we experienced all that. So sometimes if we seem rather frugal, it's because once you're born in the Depression, it carries over. And I remember that the only room we heated in the house was the kitchen. And that we would go and stand in front of the heater or the oven and get dressed for school. But, and I remember when my shoes were made differently then. And I remember when I'd get holes in my shoes, Mother would cut a piece of cardboard and put it in. But the thing was, we never knew we were poor. I mean, we just took it for granted that that was the way people lived. Dean and I were both valedictorians at Bountiful Junior High. And when we went to high school, he'll tell you all the things he did. And I was historian at the high school. And then when we went to college for 2 years together, we went to the University of Utah, and we'd take the Bamberger there, or we'd drive in with a couple or somebody that had a car, but we'd usually take the Bamberger home.
What is the Bamberger? I don't know what that is.
The Bamberger is a train that went from Salt Lake to Ogden, did it go?
Yeah.
Kind of like the front runner.
So it's
Kind of like
the
a trolley.
Diversion in front
Down
of
on Second West,
They
kind of
maintained
through
that
that
at Trolley
way.
Square.
And
That's right.
the things that I have done since I graduated and got married, I joined the League of Women Voters. I have been a docent at the Lion House and at the church at the Temple Square. And I was governor of the Mayflower for around 24 years. I was also chairman of the junior Mayflower members for around 12 years. And that's when we would go to Farmington, to Lagoon, to the old church. And then we put on skits. And we would only meet for 30 minutes, and then the kids were free to go ride anything they wanted to at Lagoon. But that was because Hap Robinson would pay for us to get in free. It was his son that owned Lagoon, but I'm sure it cost him a lot of money. I was also a vice president of the Young Republicans, and Dave Irvine was president at the time. We didn't take too many vacations. I remember we took the girls to Disneyland when Andrea was about 3, and the reason I remember that is because we didn't have any air conditioning in the car, and so they all wanted to take off their clothes, but Andrea was the only one we let take off her clothes, and it made the girls very angry. They couldn't understand why they couldn't take off their shirts if Andrea could take off hers.
Is this on the Ride Through Death Valley? Do I
Yeah.
recall? Okay.
And then we did go to back east in 1976, and I think all you girls went to that, and that was fun. And we went to see
Not
Silver.
Christine. I was married.
In 76, okay. The other 3 went. And I remember Lisa would sit in the back of the car and sing "I'm a Little Teapot" with David James or something. And most of our vacations were at Dean's conventions, I think, weren't they, Dean? You and I just went alone.
A lot of them.
And that's about all I've got to tell you, unless you've got any questions, and he can tell you more.
Well, maybe family life, like.
Can I just add something? When she talked about she was vice chairman of the Republican Party, that was state. It wasn't just county, that was state. So that was an important position.
And I forgot to tell you that Dad would take us to Sun Valley very often. You girls probably remember going to Sun Valley.
Yeah.
And Dad would take the whole family up there, and that was a treat, wasn't it? And my folks loved Dean. I used to say that if we separated, Dean would go home to my mother, and I didn't know what I'd do.
And what did your dad do, and did you help him in the business?
I did not help, well, I helped for a little while with the sales slips, but that was the only thing. I never went to the market. And he had the Smedley Fruit Company, and the boys helped on the market. Dean never did. And the growers market, my grandfather started the growers market in Salt Lake, and the farmers would take their goods in. They'd get the horse, and they'd put the things in the wagon, and then they'd give the horse a whip, and the horse would go, and the men would go to sleep. And of course, it took a lot longer to get in town. And where was the market now?
The growers market covered from 4th to 5th South, from West Temple to 1st West.
And there's lots of pictures
Well,
of the
it's
growers
called
market.
2nd West now, but it was one full block, except for the corner had a electrical shop and an insurance company building on one corner. Other than that, that whole block was the growers market. And the railroad came in from the back, so it could come in and service the, like Elaine's dad, he serviced grocery stores all through the city with the produce, but they would bring it in from California and Florida in box cars and pull them into the market back of their buildings. They would bring in the bananas when they were really green, and then they would ripen them in those buildings on a certain temperature. So that was the growers market, covered that essentially that whole block. And
the growers market turned into something bigger than that, though, because then there was Smedley Fruit and Produce, and there was A&Z and Pacific Fruit, and they took over. They were a bigger, more commercial sort of thing.
Those big commercial ones are on one side of the market, and the farmers were all down the middle. And the farmers had what they called stalls, and it was an area that had a number, and they backed up to that, and the stalls were back to back with a walkway down the center, and then there'd be the stalls on this side and the stalls on this side. And the way you got a number is you had to own stock in the growers market, and it was a lottery. They would have the numbers of the stalls all in a box, and then they would just go through and say, Bill Dix, here's your stall. They'd pull it out, read it to him, and that was his stall for that year. And then after the stalls were allocated, then there was a lot of trading and sales that went on, because the closer you got to West Temple, the better off you were. So somebody up there that owned growers market stock may not have a farm anymore, but they kept that stock. And if they got a good one up there, they'd sell it to somebody who was way to the west and wanted a better stall, and they'd sell them that one up there. So it was, and the growers market is, we'll have to bring you a picture of it sometime and show you how it was, but you had to have stock before you could sell on the growers market, and so all of the farmers you know, bought stock in it. The LDS church owned the block. Some families would have 4 or 5 stalls because of the magnitude of their business. But Elaine's dad was one of the big wholesalers on the west side, and for years Pacific Fruit and Produce was the biggest wholesale seller in Salt Lake, the biggest wholesale market, and Smedley Fruit was second. And then the Pacific Fruit and Produce pulled out of Salt Lake, and Elaine's dad took over a lot of their area, and from that point on he was the largest wholesaler of fruit and produce in the business. And I just have to tell you that he would leave for work about, what, 3 o'clock in the morning, because a lot of trucks would come in and load out to go to Idaho and go to different places, and they wanted to start early, so he would be down there. He'd leave about 3:30 or 4 in the morning and go down there, and at night, if you ever went over there in the evening, he was at the kitchen table with his order book, and at night he would call the owners of the stores, the different ones, and they would give him an order for the next day, what they wanted him to bring. And so a lot of the order taking was taken at the kitchen table by Elaine's dad, and he would write up the orders, take them in, they'd fill them, they'd all be there early, they'd fill them up, the trucks by 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock were off to the stores, giving them the produce for that day that they wanted fresh. So that's the way it worked.
Where was the stand, the major fruit stand? Not like on the farmer's market, but where did he work out of, other than the kitchen?
Over Smedley Fruit.
Oh, the
Smedley Fruit Company.
Well, the Smedley Fruit Company was a large building on the market square.
Oh, right on the square.
Right on the square.
Okay.
They were all down one side, the big ones. And the railroad came over and up right back of them. That's how they unloaded from the railroad into their buildings.
Oh, cool.
And they went all the way west.
So is that where A&Z Produce is today?
No, A&Z now is over by 5th South more. And they're on there were always little ones over there. And A&Z is one of those that has survived all through these years. But they're on the opposite side of the market, these big ones were, because when they built the interstate system, then they had a hotel had bought the property. So what they have relocated onto is property that was left over from the interstate system and the old market. But the market went out of business when a big hotel chain bought them out, and the market that was after years, and the farmers were, you know, not doing much anymore, and they tore down the marketplace entirely, built the hotel that still stands there today. Today it's a Sheraton.
It was a Hilton at the time.
It was a Hilton at the time, and what they did is they paid a 50-year lease on the ground, and the growers market got a basic payment, and then they got a share of all of the proceeds of the hotel also. And that's the hotel is still there. The growers market is now gone. It was in business for a lot of years as the growers market, because they had other buildings and other real estate. And so they stayed in business as the Growers Market, changed their name at one time. And then at one point in time, it was not worth doing what they did. And and at that time, at that time, I was on the board of directors when it sold out, and they decided it was not worth the amount of money that was paid to each shareholder. The years was very little, but the real estate was worth quite a bit. So they had it appraised and marketed, and it was sold to the hotel company. Now they own it rather than are leasing it, and the Old Growers Market, which at that point was called the GMX Corporation, G&M standing for the Old Growers Market.
Did the growers, the farmers, did they kind of subside because of large agricultural businesses?
Also,
Large growers?
also, so many of the farms turned into homes.
Oh, yeah.
Real estate got to the point that you couldn't afford to farm it anymore. I mean, you were better off to sell it, take the money, and a lot of people's with big farms, they just sold it and retired. I mean, you know,
That happened everywhere.
the only farm that's left here of any magnitude is the farm over north here.
Charlie Banger's.
The Bangeter farm,
Oh, okay.
where you can buy produce each year, and some of the restaurants buy fresh produce from them and so on. But that's the only farm left of all of the holdings. The old Holbrook farm is all in homes.
Elaine, tell us about Jasmine and Junior Jasmine.
Oh, well, I was a beginning, what do you call it? If you're the founder or the beginning, I was a beginning member of both Junior Jasmine and Tri-Unis Club. Now, the Junior Jasmine was a takeoff of the Jasmine Senior Club, and that was mostly our mothers.
Hi, can I call you back?
And then
Okay, bye-bye.
then we just formed our own club, and there were so many of us that we weren't welcome there anymore. So we had our own Junior Jasmine Club, and the old Jasmine Club is now disintegrated
Oh,
because they all died now.
But yours is still going.
But our Junior Jasmine is still going, and Tri-Unis Club is the other literary club I belong to. And we founded both of those ages and ages ago. I don't remember how long.
I want to hear about the piano. When did the piano conservatories you played at? The one that's up on South Temple, North Temple.
Oh,
State
the
Street.
McHugh. I
The
took-
McHugh?
The McEwen.
Could you even just like talk about your basic piano background, like even?
Okay, I started teaching piano
Uh-huh.
in 7th grade and taught till I was 75. But she sang, and I took from Louise Bishop, and I think I paid 25 cents a lesson. And I'd ride my bike down, and I really wanted to go to the McCune School of Music, and so one Christmas in my stocking was a note that said I could go to the McCune School of Music. And I would take the bus in and walk up the hill to the McCune, and then often I would walk down to the market and drive home with Dad. And then later he got so he'd pick me up at McCune School of Music. But I played much better than I play now.
How long did you go
I hear
there?
the songs and think, oh, I used to be able to do that.
How long did you go there for? How many years did you go to the McKidd Center?
A long, long time. I don't remember.
Years and years.
Uh-huh.
Then you
7
went.
or 8.
Then you went to the Belvedere Hotel for
And took,
a
yeah,
long
and then I
time.
went to the Belvedere Hotel and took from Becky Almond and Frederick Dixon for a long time.
How old were you when you started playing or learning to play?
Oh, I think about 8.
Hmm.
I remember one time saying to Mother, I cannot play using both hands and my foot. And she'd say, do you want to quit? And I'd say, no.
And we're all grateful for that.
But you were in 7th grade when you started to teach, so that would have put you at like 12.
Uh-huh.
So after 4 years of playing the piano, you were teaching piano.
Mhm.
Tell them where you got your first student.
Yeah, where'd you get your first student? Tell us about that.
It was a Mehmet girl. The Mehmets called Mother and asked if I'd teach their children.
So I know you've loved all your students, but give us one memorable student you've taught over the years.
Do you know, it's interesting to teach, as you girls all know, because you have some that are almost like extended family, and some parents that are so sweet and good to you, and others that are just really almost mean. And I guess Christine's nodding. There's a difference, isn't there?
Mhm.
But you do remember the kind, well, I remember the ones I didn't like too. But some are your friends even 40 years later.
Who was the student who came and played for you last Christmas?
Oh, that was Colin Anderson.
Oh, that's right.
Uh-huh.
And he came and just played.
He said he came, well, he's a pharmacist now. He's one of the head pharmacists at the University of Utah, or at the University Hospital. But he said, I just came to play for you and you can keep doing your work. But of course I didn't want to. But he did make a CD before he left on his mission of his piano playing. But I taught him and his brother and his sister. But they were nice to me. Mhm. Just like,
Is he the one that fell in the cavern at?
no,
was Colin?
that was,
Oh,
that was like Colin. What was his name?
Cameron or maybe, I don't know, okay, sorry.
He did. You know, I was sitting there one day and I said, well, so what did you do during your vacation this summer? You know, like you always say. And he said, well, I fell down in an avalanche. And so then I thought, stop and listen to what this boy's saying.
No, it was in a crevice.
A
A
crevice.
crevice.
In a big crevice.
So then I stopped and he said, I fell down and we were away from the rangers or anybody. And actually he talked to priesthood and told this story.
I remember you went to the general priesthood meeting to
I remember it was written
hear
up in
the
the
story
ensign.
retold.
It was
Yeah.
written up in the ensign.
Yeah.
And so he said, my dad sent my mother to get help in the car, and my dad leaned over and said, now we're going to sing, and you sing, I am a child of God.